Good morning. I call to order this meeting on February 11th, 2025 of the Pinellas County School Board. It's so good to see all of you here this morning. We will start our meeting this morning with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Chair Caprice Edmond. And then our national anthem will be performed by Lakewood High School Zephaniah Wharton under the direction of Charles Rogers. Please stand and remain standing until the completion of the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light that so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. We'll go ahead and have that moment of silence, and then I'll ask Mr. Gordon to introduce the second song. Thank you. And excuse me, Mr. Rogers, please introduce the second song.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Charles Rogers. I teach guitar, keyboard, and AP Music Theory at Lakewood High School. This morning, I have the privilege of welcoming these students as we play music from the movie The Batman. Thank you.
That was very beautiful, thank you. I know for at least one of those students, it was their first time performing, and this is a rather large audience. You did very well. We would never know who that was. And I do want to mention that today happens to be National Guitar Day, in case you didn't know that, every year on February 11th. So perfect timing, whoever arranged to have the guitar quartet for us this morning. The next item on our agenda is a video. Last week was one of our favorite weeks. I know one of Mr. Hendrick's favorite weeks with the Student Leadership Summit. So let's take a look at what those were like.
Today we're here at the Leadership Summit called Generation Lead. When I think about leadership, I think about innovation.
Brave, responsibility, courageous,
enthusiastic.
You have to have empathy. You have to know what they feel like.
kindness and respect, because if you don't do that, nobody will like you and they won't think you're a good leader.
Are you ready to make a difference?
Listen.
You're going to work together as a team on an activity to develop your listening skills.
I really enjoyed where we did the towers with the spaghetti and like how we had to learn how to like communicate with each other.
I never connected with my group before today, and I feel like I really got to do that. Learn.
You'll have a chance today to wander the campus a little bit.
You get to visit a dorm and see what a real dorm looks like.
I enjoyed playing Jenga and being asked questions about where I would be in the future and where my interests lie.
Lead.
Trying to be an excavator, like you're getting lifted around.
There are so many dreams in here today.
My dream is to become a Supreme Court judge.
I want to be a pilot when I grow up.
I basically want to be a pediatrician.
I'm looking at business.
Go to college abroad.
Yale University.
You have the ability as leaders to make those dreams happen.
Connect. The collaboration was really there. I thought all of the little activities were very fun and engaging.
I really like the launching with the moon and the space thing. I love that.
Yes, those activities will be fun, but they also have a purpose. And they're designed to get you thinking about being a better leader and going back to your school and implementing something to make your school better.
I hope that we're able to create projects and help the spread of new ideas and new mindsets for people.
Starting clubs or hosting events like a food drive or fundraiser.
Showing them how to really be a leader and giving them examples of being a leader so they can carry it on and tell their friends, so it could be a leader in a community.
Your call to action was to go back to your school and think about how you can improve digital responsibility in your school.
One of our issues at school, I think, is cyberbullying. So we want to spread kindness and make sure that everyone is appreciated and seen at school, and finding methods to do that.
I can't wait to see you continue to grow as student leaders in Pinellas County Schools.
A lot of the times we get told what to do and we don't have that voice, and I feel like we're given a voice throughout this entire opportunity.
We have to make a difference in the world, and you have to you should be a leader if you want to do that.
I really want to do this next year too.
Doesn't that look like something we all would enjoy? I mean, it just looks wonderful. I'm sure we'll hear more about it from you later, Mr. Hendrick. Did anybody else, when they were showing the Post-its, notice the one goal of retire my parents? I thought that was very, very selfless. Really good. The next item on our agenda is introduction of professional and community organization representatives. Our public information officer, Isabel Mascarenas.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Hendrick, and staff. It is my pleasure to introduce the following representatives of community and professional organizations. Representing the North Pinellas League of Women Voters, Connie Colosi. From the Pinellas Arts for a Complete Education Coalition, Sumaya Ayad. Today, we have a presentation from the Student Rights and Responsibility Committee. Please welcome students Lucas Barsky and Jules East from Lakewood High School and their school representative, Dennis Russo.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Glad to have you here.
Good morning, school board, superintendent, and audience members.
My name is Lucas Barsky, and I'm a senior at Lakewood High School, a CAT ambassador and ALMA student. Throughout my time here, I've had the opportunity to be a part of so many different aspects of our school community. I do swim, soccer, and tennis, serve as captain of the academic team, secretary of FBLA, treasurer of Key Club, and work as an athletic trainer. If there's something happening at Lakewood, chances are I'm involved in some way, and that's what makes the school so great. There's truly something for everyone. But none of this would be possible without Lakewood High School, a place that truly sets students up for success. We have incredible teachers who support and challenge us, ensuring we reach our full potential. The school provides fantastic resources that allow me to explore my passions, whether in academics, athletics, or leadership. We also take pride in our achievements, and there's been no shortage of those lately. Our athletic programs have been outstanding, with our varsity football and girls' basketball teams dominating in their divisions with back-to-back district and PCAC championships for both sports. Our students have excelled in many areas, with more than 80 of our FBLA members qualifying for states, and 3 of our very own being national merit finalists, the most of any school in St. Petersburg. We've also made history by earning PBIS gold status for the first time, as well as our academic growth speaking for itself, with a 15% increase in proficiency rates and every school grade cell increasing this year from last year, projecting our school to advance to a B grade rating by next year. Even in arts, our students are standing out, winning prestigious awards like the Scholastic Art Silver Key Award, and our school taking home the victory of being the 2024 Battle of the Books champions. But what truly sets Lakewood apart is our vibe policy, keeping good values in mind, being intentional, being responsible and present, and encouraging excellence. These values aren't just words. They're the foundation of everything we do here. We respect each other, hold ourselves to high standards, and push one another to be the best versions of ourselves. That's what makes the school feel so unique, a place where every student has the chance to shine. Lakewood isn't just a school, it's a community. There's truly something for everyone, from athletics to academics to arts. Being involved in so many different activities has given me the leadership skills, lifelong friendships, and unforgettable experiences. I couldn't be prouder to be a Spartan. Now I would like to introduce my friend Jules East to talk with you all now.
Hello everyone, my name is Jules East and I'm a senior at Lakewood High School. I've been in the Center for Journalism and Media at Lakewood for 3 years now. Currently the breaking news editor, and I run a breaking news team that reports on all the latest campus news. I'm also this year's yearbook editor. Now enough about me, I would love to talk to you about our amazing school. Lakewood is a very unique school that offers innovative magnet programs. For example, the Center for Advanced Technology program, also known as CAT. The CAT program offers pathways in robotics, artificial intelligence, and content creation. This year, the CAT program earned the distinction of Magnet School of Excellence, which is the highest honor bestowed upon by the Magnet Schools of America. I would also like to tell you about the Center for Journalism and Media program that is in partnership with the Poynter Institute. We refer to this program as CJAM. CJAM allows students to choose between the media production or sports journalism pathway. This year, the CJAM program was honored to be recognized as a Academy of Distinction by the Pinellas Education Foundation. A recent program that Lakewood incorporated is 3DE. We are in year 2 of building our 3DE program, supported by Junior Achievement, which gives students project-based business experience. We also have the Athletic Lifestyle Management Academy, also known as ALMA, which is a program at Lakewood High School that emphasizes health and wellness classes and is aimed at students who would like to pursue healthcare careers. ALMA has awarded scholarships and grants throughout the years up to $7,000 to help students pursue careers in the medical field. However, these programs would not be what they are without the dedicated and encouraging staff who I would like to take the time to recognize today. Christopher Borg, the CAT director, was named the Lakewood Teacher of the Year. Our counselor, Leslie Morrow, was named the 2025 Pinellas County Schools Counselor of the Year, and our wonderful campus monitor, John Darby, was the 2024 Campus Monitor of the Year. Lakewood High School has given me the opportunity to do things that I never really thought I would be able to do. Through the CJAM program, I've been able to meet the president of the Rays baseball team, Brian Auld, as well as the St. Petersburg Mayor, Ken Welch. The things that I have learned and experienced through my time at Lakewood High School have given me the tools I need to excel in college and beyond. I was recently accepted into the Florida Gulf Coast University for their pre-nursing program, as well as being offered to be a part of their honors college. I plan to not only obtain my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing, but to also further my education by becoming a nurse practitioner. And I can say with absolute certainty that none of this would be possible for me without the guidance and experiences I have gained from being a student at Lakewood High School. Lakewood's main goal is to prepare students to be successful in their future, whether it be college, trade school, or anything else that students can dream of. And I can say from experience that all of my dedicated teachers and mentors have helped me to become not only successful academically, but as well as outside the classroom.
Thank you for your time. It's always a vibe at Hollywood High.
Lucas and Jules, thank you so much. And Jules, congratulations on that acceptance to the pre-nursing program at Florida Gulf Coast. That's not easy, and it's excellent news for you and your family. I'm very happy for you, Mr. Russo. It's always nice to see you. The next item on our agenda today, any amendments to the agenda? Mr. Hendrick, any amendments to the agenda?
There are no amendments, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Board members, amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda? Second. A motion from Mrs. Blacksburg and a second from Mrs. Edmond. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Item 4.1 on our special order agenda today, presentation of proclamation designating February 2025 as Career and Technical Education Month. May I have a motion and a second to approve this item? A motion by Mrs. Kane and a second by Mrs. Long. Mr. Hendrick, would you please introduce this?
It's my pleasure, Madam Chair. I don't know if you noticed, but we had some students here this morning, and we're thrilled to have them here sharing their talents in career technical education, and was able to visit many of the tables, as I know the board was as well, and a number of members in this building, and we always are just so impressed by the talents of our students, some of the work that you're doing, whether it be culinary work, engineering, the students' interviews in the journalism program, and everything in between. So thank you, students, for being here today. Thank you for showcasing your talents. And to tell us more about our proclamation is our Executive Director of Career Technical and Adult Education, Mr. Mark Hunt.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hendrick. Board members, this is a terrific opportunity for career and technical education to showcase what our students do, the kinds of activities they engage in. You know, when you think about the student experience, think about CTE, because that's what that entire program is all about. Students experiencing something they're interested in, getting skills from it, industry certifications, leadership, teamwork skills, and developing all of those kinds of traits that make them a very valuable employee and a high-quality adult. As you saw this morning, we had a little sample of what we do across the district in middle schools, high schools, and our technical colleges. As you could see, the students are very excited about what they do. They're very engaged in what they do, and this proclamation is a testament to celebration of career and technical education in the month of February, and I appreciate your consideration of the proclamation.
Thank you. Mrs. Kane, would you please read the proclamation?
Absolutely. This is a proclamation of Career and Technical Education Month, whereas the efforts of career and technical educators with business and industry stimulate the growth and vitality of our local economy and that of the entire nation by preparing graduates for careers that are forecast to experience the largest and fastest growth in the next decade. And whereas there are nearly 30,000 high school students in the district with over 22,000 enrolled in at least one course under the umbrella of career technical education, while Pinellas Technical College boosts an enrollment of 4,725 students in certificate and apprenticeship programs, including 1,068 dual-enrolled high school students. And whereas the district offers 138 programs of study in secondary and post-secondary schools, which offers students career pathway opportunities, leading to high-skill, high-wage, high-demand careers. And whereas there are 50 registered high school career and professional education, or CAPE, C-A-P-E, academies, and 18 registered middle school CAPE academies in the district, whereas elementary, middle, and high school students earned 11,034 industry certifications and graduate career and college ready, and whereas career and technical education offers individuals lifelong opportunities to learn new skills, providing career choices and potential satisfaction. Now, therefore, the School Board of Pinellas County does hereby recognize February 2025 as Career and Technical Education Month, signed this 11th day of February 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kane and Mr. Hunt. Any other comments or discussion? We have a motion and a second to designate February 2025 as Career and Technical Education Month. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Thank you very much. And if I may just take one brief second to thank all of the teachers and all of our CTE students that attended this morning. I want to thank you very much for coming out. And among our esteemed group with us, we have CTE Month ambassadors. These are high school students. We've selected 13 high school students from across the district to represent career and technical education, and also they are being recognized formally for their leadership and skill. If I may have the ambassadors that are still in the room, please stand up. I know there's 2 of you at least. There we go. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. The next item on our agenda is also around career technical education. So item 4.2, recognition of career academies earning Academy of Distinction designation by the Stavros Career Education Board. Mr. Hendrick, would you please introduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. It's my pleasure to recognize 5 outstanding academies today of distinction through the Stavros Career Education Board. I want to thank the Pinellas Education Foundation, of which you'll hear from Lisa Fasting in just a moment, but I want to thank Bob Bialik, the current president and chair, or the current chair of the Pinellas Education Foundation, Melissa Lestraglio, who's here from DITEC, and Linda Lerner, who serves on the Stavros Career Education Board, all working to make this day possible. I want to call Mr. Hunt up. He's going to give a little background on the Academies of Distinction, and Mr. Schnell will give us a little bit of the characteristics that make you an Academy of Distinction. And then once we do the introduction of those 5, the board will go down and take pictures once we get through the introductions. Mr.
Great.
Hunt?
Thank you very much. And as you all know, in our middle schools and high schools, we have a system called the Academies of Pinellas. And an academy in a high school or a middle school is essentially a small learning community within that school around the theme of the career and technical education program. And we leverage that theme to make the academics and the applied skills that go along with that theme relevant to our young people and give them some reason for why I need to learn this, as many of us ask that question. I asked that question a lot when I was in school. Why do I have to learn this? So we're hoping that this is giving our young people the opportunity to apply those academic subjects. And with that, I want to call up Mr. Ron Schnell to tell you a little bit about the process to recognize those outstanding academies.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Superintendent Hendrick, Madam Chair, honorable members of the school board, members of Pinellas Education Foundation, and welcome guests. I'd like to take a moment to outline the process for these academies as they undergo the journey of becoming an Academy of Distinction as recognized. This process includes 3 levels of administration. First is from the CTE department itself, an internal inspection. Next, each program provides evidentiary facts. And then finally, the verification process through site visits with our community partners, industry representatives, and members of the Pinellas Education Foundation. On behalf of our department, I assert to you that each of the programs has risen to the highest performance levels required of our career academies. These academies are to be committed for their dedication to preparing our scholars for success after graduation. In addition to their public recognition today, each program earns a monetary reward to support program supplies, field trips, and/or equipment needs specific to their career cluster. At this point, I'd like to introduce Ms. Lisa Fasting from the Pinellas Education Foundation.
Thank you. Good morning. I want to just take a brief moment to thank our Pinellas Education Foundation board and committee members that are passionate about supporting career and technical education. Several of them attended the site visits to review the schools and the programs and came back with just glowing remarks about how impressed they are with what is happening in our schools. And I also want to take a moment to thank Melissa Lestraglio from DITEC. DITEC is adding an additional financial reward for the 5 academies today. Thank you so much.
So board members, if you'll join the academies. Mrs. Hine.
As we're making our way down there, I just wanted to thank everyone for being here this morning, certainly the Pinellas Education Foundation for your support of this work, but Mr. Hunt and your team and all the Pinellas County Schools professionals who lead our career and technical education. You know, we're fortunate to have this here once a year and see all of these programs, but we also visit your schools and see them in your schools, and they're just remarkable, and it's nice to see our principals and leaders and students here today. You know, I heard this quote one time that said, "Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and do that." Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And that's what your programs do. Your programs allow our students to come alive in the school setting by something that they're really excited about. So I just, before we go down and when this part's done, you all are gonna leave and we're gonna move on with our meeting. So I just wanted to take the opportunity from the whole school board to thank you and let you know how important we know what you do every day is. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Hine. And while you're coming down, we're going to recognize those academies that have excelled at those measures that we use to measure the implementation of an academy. And these academies are at the highest level of performance. And this is not an easy measure to meet. It's been very rigorous for them and a reward that is very valued within the school. So to start us off, we're going to recognize first the Jacobson Culinary Arts Academy from Tarpon Springs High School. We're going to invite Ms. Lisa Fatalizis, the principal of Tarpon Springs High School, along with Chef Vincent Peace, the academy lead teacher, and a number of students. Come on up and get the big check. Y'all can't be standing in front of the school board members. Come on now. Great. Thank you very much. Congratulations. You can take that check back with you and display it. It won't fit through the night drop at the bank. All right, our next recognition will go to the Center of Education and Leadership at Seminole High School. And today they're represented by Dr. Jane Lucas, the principal of Seminole High School, as well as Ms. Deanna Russo, the academy lead teacher, and a number of CEL students. Welcome. Okay, for all of you academy leaders out there, pay attention when you take pictures that you don't get in front of the leaders that you're trying to promote and to smooze a little bit, okay? That's a little politics. All right, because at some point you're going to be presented with that. All right, next is up for the Center of Journalism and Multimedia at Lakewood High School. We're going to recognize the lead teacher, Christopher Mosier, and we're going to recognize also Donald Johns. Okay, very good, and some students from the academy. Oh, and Miss Garcia, you're trying to skip out on the pictures. Okay. Miss Kanisha Garcia, the principal of Lakewood High School. Great, congratulations. Now for our next recognition, we're going to go to the Center for Technology, Entertainment, and Design, Osceola Fundamental High School, represented by Mr. Michael Bonet, the principal, and Miss Courtney Thompson, the lead academy teacher, as well as some CTED students. Great, congratulations. And our fifth recognition today is for the Commercial and Digital Arts Academy at Richard O. Jacobson Technical High School, represented by Mr. Josh Wolfenden, the principal, and Miss Anita Thompson, the academy lead teacher, along with some of their students as well. And thank you all very much for helping us recognize these outstanding academies. And we look forward to another group next year. Congratulations and thank you all very much.
I'm glad you're gone.
Okay. On to agenda item number 5, public comments on agenda items. Mrs. Hauk, do we have any speakers this morning?
Madam Chair, there are no speakers for agenda items this morning.
Thank you. We don't have any items for number 6, unfinished business, the consent agenda. May I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Motion from Mrs. Long and a second from Mrs. Meyer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Mr. Kapersky, is this 6-0 or 7-0?
We can request the vote when she gets back, but right now the record reflects 6-0.
Thank you. Item 8.1 on our non-consent agenda, setting a public hearing and authorizing the advertisement of the public hearing to consider the amendment to Policy 2140, Independent Citizens Referendum Oversight Committee, ICROC. This is the first reading. May I have a motion and a second to approve this item?
Second.
Motion from Mrs. Blacksburg and a second from Mrs. Edmond. Mr. Hendrick, would you please introduce this item?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. We are, of course, so grateful of our citizens who have entrusted us with 4 more years of the referendum and with new ballot language and new information to put into that. And so every 4 years, the board must update its policy as the voters approve that. And this year, of course, we are updating that policy with some changes as we ask the voters to include our support staff in those referendum funds. And so to explain a little bit more about these changes and the policy in front of you today is our Director of Strategic Planning and Policy, Leanna Eisen. Ms. Eisen, take it away.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Hendrick, staff, and community. Again, as Mr. Hendrick said, we are grateful and thank all of our community for supporting the referendum again this year. Our amendments to Policy 2140 reflect the new ballot language from November and the agreed upon utilization of the tax referendum funds for reading, music, and art classes and staff salaries and benefits. Specifically, 70% for teacher salaries and benefits, which include supplements, recruitment, and retention, 15% for support staff salaries and benefits, including supplements, recruitment, and retention, and 15% for music, art, and reading classes and updated technology. Upon board approval, these amendments will take effect on July 1st, 2025, and we recommend setting a public hearing on these amendments for March 25th, 2025.
Thank you. Board members, is there any discussion? Mrs. Edmond?
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent and Ms. Eisen, for not only updating the policy and sharing this information with us at the workshop. I do want to take this time just to talk to colleagues and see if there's additional discussion or anything that would occur from this. So having the opportunity to review the policy again, as well as speak with staff and receive feedback from constituents, I have one recommendation and a clarification to the request that I made at the workshop, and I'd like to share them with you. So under Section X, responsibilities of the superintendent, I'm requesting that we use the ballot language when referring to the percentages. And the second recommendation would be to include a second paragraph under Section 8X, superintendent responsibilities, which states the superintendent's reports to ICROC will include information from charter schools as required by the ballot question. Now, the rationale for these changes, as I mentioned at the workshop for the first one, is clarity. Being clear that the funds are going to be used as the ballot language intended. And the second recommendation is to ensure that our policy is clear on what the superintendent will be providing as it relates to the charter schools who receive funding from the referendum. So those are the two recommendations that I have. And Mrs. Hine, would you see if the majority of the board agrees with the changes and if Mr. Hendrick is amendable to making those changes for the second reading? There is also an opportunity for the updated version to come to us at the workshop.
So just to clarify, and I can be corrected if this is incorrect, if there are suggested changes and the majority of the board agreed and wanted to see those changes made, staff could work on those and bring them to the workshop, and we could review them again, and then those could take place for the second reading. So this would still serve as the first reading, and then we could look at it, and then we would review it again and approve it in the second reading. So it is possible. Any clarifications there? It is possible to amend it if we wanted to, but that's if we have a majority of the board that wants to do so. So if we don't have a majority of the board that wants to do so, then it affirms that we approve the language as presented. So if you would like to, I'm going to reset the board, but if you'd like to have further discussion on the suggestions presented by Mrs. Edmond to amend this item, please indicate so. So we don't have a majority of the board wishing to discuss this further.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I apologize. If board members put their lights on, if they have comments, I would hear their comments to further the debate. It's not a motion that needs to be voted upon.
Sure.
We're just determining where the board members' thoughts are if they wish to speak. If they don't wish to speak, then we will just assume that they are not in favor of the recommendations.
Thank you. So, Mrs. Blacksburg, did you want to?
I move that, or suggest that we table any further discussion until our workshop on Tuesday.
Mrs. Peters?
Is it on? Yeah, I would like to see this in writing versus just having a conversation about it. So it's correct that we could vote to approve the first reading as presented, correct? And then see the potential amendments or suggested amendments at the workshop. And either way, the second reading could then occur.
Yes, that is correct. I've looked at this. If you have substantive changes between first and second reading, then it's my recommendation that you start the process over with a new first reading. But I've had conversations with Ms. Edmond, and the concepts that she's looking to include, I would not constitute as substantive. So I do believe that you could have conversations at a workshop and then move forward if the board wanted to with these non-substantive changes. And of course, that would include a vote today to move it to a second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Koperski. And then also, the Superintendent, do you have any comments to make to this?
Sure. I think that what's presented is certainly sufficient to meet what the board needs to do and what we need to carry out. The idea of charters being included in the superintendent's responsibility, it is in the ballot language portion of this policy. We already do report on the charters through ICROC, and that's in my annual report to the board. Listing it as to make it clear for somebody who reads it on its own is fine. It doesn't change what we already do. And certainly the other suggestion of reading programs versus reading classes to match the ballot language, either way is fine. It doesn't change what we already do. So I think it's fine as is. You could vote on it and we could move forward, and you could do the clarifications, and I don't think that would stop or impede the progress at all. We certainly can add it to the workshop next week to have further conversations if we want.
Mrs. Edmond?
So there has been a lot of conversation, so I just want to make sure it's clear what we're doing today or what Mrs. Hine has asked of the board members to reflect or discuss related to my recommendations for clarity in the policy. So I just want to go back to that. And either way, whether it's looking at this first reading, it's going to move forward. As Mr. Koperski mentioned, there aren't any substantial changes with my recommendations. And again, just to be clear, the voters voted to support the referendum, and I believe the clarity in our policy, regardless of whether that is presented to ICROC, that it should be clearly written. And that's some of the feedback that I've heard from members as it relates to making sure that everybody's reporting the way they should. So that is the reason why I brought that brought those recommendations up. And it is my hope that the majority of the board would at least consider having those recommendations included in a policy for us to review at the next workshop.
Mrs. Long?
Okay, now I think I have better clarity. I think that would be good because, you know, we understand, but the general public doesn't always understand. And they read it and they think reading program, you know, I mean, we have that knowledge, but they don't. So I like the clarification. We're transparent, and that's making us more transparent.
Mrs. Blacksburg?
I'd just like to echo what Ms. Peters has said. I'd like to see it in writing, and while we are all thankful, obviously, to the voters, we, do need to have a little bit, probably a little more clarifications. I'd like to just see it in writing before we vote on it. I'd like to vote today as is, and then bring it up at the workshop on Tuesday.
Mrs. Kane, I see your light's on, but your name isn't here. I just want to mention.
have a legal clarification.
Okay.
Legal clarification, Mr. Kapriski. Right now, I'm hearing that we have a motion to amend it and then discuss at the workshop, and a second one to table it. What are we voting on?
There is no motion to amend. I took Mrs. Edmonds' comments just to simply determine is the will of the board to consider these changes. I then have taken the debate and conversation among the board members to mean that it might be something that could be discussed at the workshop. Also, to the extent that Ms. Blacksburg intended a motion to table, I don't think that was followed through with any second, and so I don't think we have any secondary motions pending right now. All we have is the main motion, which is as is, to move this on to a second reading and to advertise it. But I believe that the discussion is still ongoing as to whether or not you're going to talk about it at a workshop.
We don't need to vote on that, then?
No, you don't. That
Separately.
could just be direction to Mr. Hendrick.
Thank you very much.
But while I have the floor, Madam Chair, I do want to clarify with Ms. Eisen. So is the advertisement of the second reading going to be impacted at all if a decision is made in 7 days to do something different?
It shouldn't be.
Thank you.
So at this point, what I'm understanding is we can vote on the first reading as is, and then if the majority of us agree, then in our workshop this coming week, we can bring some written proposals for amendments, so there can be some actual recommendation of what the recommended changes are, and then those can be reviewed and discussed at workshop, decided then, and then they would apply to our second reading. Mrs. Edmond?
Thank you, Mrs. Hine. I was going to ask if you were going to propose the question again, just for clarity, because we've heard a lot of discussions. I wasn't sure how it moved. Thank you.
Did that clarify for you? So
No, we haven't heard from the majority as to whether or not they want that to move forward. That's what I was asking. Thank you.
So, board members, if you would like to see the proposals in writing at the workshop this coming week for discussion, please indicate so by pushing to talk. So, yes?
Would it be better if we say aye or something, or say something?
This is not a motion that needs a vote. That is not a formal vote to be taken. If the chair recognizes that a majority of the board wants it to go to the workshop, she can indicate that to Superintendent Hendrick.
I just know I heard her say that she didn't see Mrs. Kane's light, but she saw the mic light, so I want to make sure it's working properly.
Does yours work when you push it? Can I see one? Yeah, it works. Okay. Okay, so once again, I've cleared it. So anybody who would like to see this come, some edited language come at workshop, please indicate so. If we have a majority, we'll do it. If we don't, we won't. Okay, so we don't have a majority who would like to see edited language at the workshop, so the first reading will stand as is. So all those, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve item 8.1. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Passes 7-0. Item 8.2, setting a public hearing and authorizing the advertisement of the public hearing to consider the repeal of policies 5113, school of choice options provided by the No Child Left Behind Act, 6100, uniform records and accounts, 7230, gifts to the school district, 7300, property custodianship and insurance, 7320, acquisition and removal of tangible property, 7320.01, disposal, sale, or exchange of tangible property, 7450, inventories and property records, 7455, accounting system for fixed assets, 7530, lending of district-owned equipment, and the adoption of policy 7300, accountability and responsibility for school board property. This is a first reading. May I have a motion and a second to approve this item? Motion by Mrs. Kane and a second by Mrs. Meyer. Mr. Hendrick, would you please introduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Really have two different things happening here. Repeal of policy 5113, which was the No Child Left Behind, which has long since been replaced by Every Student Succeeds Act. And then a combination and a rewrite of a whole host of policies around school board property and fixed assets. And I encourage the public who has questions about this as they read this to go back and listen to the workshop and look at those accompanying materials. There was a manual that was put forth to describe those changes, and Mr. Jeppesen went into depth as to the why behind this and the combination of these. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Mrs. Eisen again, who will explain the actual changes in policy.
In item 8.2, we're recommending the repeal and adoption of policies as a result of our continuous improvement and streamlining of policies and operational procedures. Upon review of 5113's school of choice options provided by the No Child Left Behind Act, as Mr. Hendrick said, that act has been replaced by the Every Student Succeeds Act, and this policy would be duplicative of law, so we recommend repealing policy 5113. We're recommending the repeal of 8 policies related to property records. They are 6100, 7230, 7300, 7320, 7320.01, 7450, 7455, and 7530. And we recommend adopting a new policy, 7300, titled Accountability and Responsibility for School Board Property. And it streamlines the 8 repealed policy into a single cohesive policy around property records, and it also removes the procedures for property records from policy, making it a standalone manual, which is what Mr. Hendrick referenced. We talked about at the workshop. The substantive changes that are recommended to the new policy 7300 include increasing the fixed asset threshold from 1,000 to 5,000 in accordance with the Florida Department of Financial Services, creating a new class of equipment required to be tagged and inventoried according to the increased fixed asset threshold. Equipment costing between $1,000 and $5,000 that meets the state's attractive item criteria will be tagged and inventoried annually. Items currently costing $1,000 to $5,000 that do not meet the attractive item criteria will no longer be tagged and reported, eliminating the requirements for schools to annually inventory items valued between $300 and $1,000. Uncapitalized technology items will continue to be tagged and tracked, but will no longer require an annual inventory. And compliance with tracking of all property will be monitored and reported during the annual inventory process and report to the board. Further, we recommend removing the procedure manual from policy to allow for more fluid and relevant updating, and clarifying the language for disposal of federally funded equipment, and adding language to include the disposal of equipment due to cannibalization, scrapping, trade-ins, and exchanges of tagged items. We recommend a March 25th public hearing to consider these amendments.
Thank you. Board members, any discussion? Item 8.2. No, this was, again, we reviewed this at our workshop recently, and this was a significant lift going through all of those different policies that refer to one another and connect with one another, and then creating one that crosses those T's and dots those I's for an organization of this size with the items that we have. So I just want to acknowledge that significant, not only administrative, technical, thoughtful work that went into this. So thank you. Having a motion and a second on the floor to approve item 8.2, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Before going on to new business, I'll go back to the consent agenda. I know Mrs. Peters had to step away for a moment. I didn't know if you wanted to weigh in with your vote on the consent agenda. If you would you like to approve the consent agenda? That is fine, I apologize. No problem, okay. Consent agenda passes 7-0. Is that okay, Mr. Kapersky? Yes. Thank you. New business. Items introduced by the superintendent. Mr. Hendrick.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to start with a reminder to the board and to the public that Monday is a regular school day. It is President's Day and was going to be a day of teacher training, but it is a regular school day as a hurricane makeup day. So we look forward to seeing all of our students and all of our employees at school on Monday. We are closely monitoring events in Tallahassee. I know we're up to a third special session now with our delegation in Tallahassee. The governor proposed his budget last week. We expect the House and Senate proposals in the near future. We are monitoring bills in both chambers, and we're looking forward to a spirit of deregulation for public schools, as is asked for in our platform. We will have a formal update for the board and the public next week at our workshop. I want to remind the public, our staff, our students, and families that our annual stakeholder survey is now open until February 16th. Pinellas County students, employees, and parents and members of the community, we encourage you to take that survey. For our students in grades 3 through 12, it's easily accessible in their Clever account. Families can access it on our website, and our employees are sent a direct link. All of the responses are anonymous, and they help inform the board and our leadership as to how to improve our schools and individual school sites. You saw in the video we wrapped up our third annual Student Leadership Summit last week, and once again we're so impressed by our students who are doing a great job developing leadership skills and taking things back to their individual schools to improve our district. It is a great day for the students and it's fun for them, but the goal is to impact the entire district. And so the first year of the project was students had to take back and do a listen and learn at their school and get student voice and input to improve something at their school. Last year, we focused on the See Something, Say Something week and looking at reducing bullying in our schools. And this year, with the board's responsibility of digital responsibility and your charge of digital responsibility this year, that is a task for our students. So they'll be going back in the coming weeks and developing an age-appropriate campaign or lesson or series of events at their school to really work on digital responsibility. And you heard some ideas from our students. I also want to thank the students from the Journeys in Journalism programs from Melrose, Johns Hopkins, and Lakewood High School, including some that you saw here today from the Center for Journalism and Multimedia. They filmed their respective grade levels and are producing documentaries on those student experiences. And I've seen some of them. They look really good, and I want to thank the students for doing that. This is our first board meeting in the month of February. I know we had a proclamation right at the end of January, but we want to continue to celebrate Black History Month. And I want to encourage our students to participate in those essay and art contests that we have going on that lead to student scholarships. You can find the links to those on our website. And I want to thank a lot of our local news outlets and others that are celebrating Black History Month and recently recognized one of our teachers, one of our top 10 Teachers of the Year finalists from Campbell Park Elementary, Mrs. Brandy Ashby, who was featured on ABC Action News. You can check out that feature on our social media channels. Over the last several weeks, we've had a number of successful student and family engagement activities. Our English Language Learner and ESOL Community Resource Fair was held on January 29th with over 250 attendees from the community. Our ESE College Career and Life Fair was on January 30th, which also had 300 attendees. And then our College and Career Fair, which was held at PTC St. Petersburg, had over 800 attendees at that particular event. I want to congratulate our students who participated in the Regional Engineering and Science Fair. The award ceremony was held last Wednesday night at Countryside High School, and the judging was held last Saturday. I want to thank 11 different judges from the community who came out with their different areas of expertise. I'm sorry, more than 11. They selected 11 projects to advance to the state competition, including the Best of Fair award went to Madeline Lyle Delfino from Countryside High School, and her exhibit will go on to the State Science and Engineering Fair with 10 others. Her presentation explored the use of agrobacterium-mediated transformation techniques to produce bioluminescence in plants. Yes, I said that correctly. And I actually spoke with Madeline at length in her project. She essentially was trying to take what makes insects and fish glow without sunlight deep in the ocean or at night, and then extract that and put it into plants to create glow-in-the-dark plants. She had a grant from the National Science Foundation and did her research at the University of South Florida in St. Petersburg with the College of Marine Science. After about 10 seconds, I was lost from her explanation, but it made sense as I looked at it, and what a brilliant young lady, and all of the students who participated from middle school and high school. And I want to thank all of the teachers and support staff who make that happen. Our district application program acceptance period begins tomorrow, and it will continue until February 21st. So families should log on to our website and select those programs that they have received an invitation for. For families who need help navigating the site or just have questions about the DAP period, we have a Facebook Live event tonight that will be live and then recorded. You can go back and watch. Additionally, kindergarten registration opened up this week for next year, and elementary schools across the district held their Ready, Set Kindergarten nights last week to help families prepare for that. If you have any questions about special attendance requests, kindergarten registration, or any of the DAP programs, our magnet programs, you can certainly visit our website, and you can see a number of channels to get those questions answered. And board members, a month from today, we'll have our first Listen and Learn for this year. It will be at the Dolly Museum, and it'll focus on the arts. We look forward to having the community out at 6:30 p.m. at the Dolly Museum, March 11th. And finally, today, I want to celebrate a superintendent standout who was nominated by their colleagues for demonstrating our core values. And today's choice is a welding instructor for Career Technical Education Month from Pinellas Technical College, Clearwater, Mr. James Petrie. He's been a welding instructor at PTC for over a year, and his colleagues note that he's been able to connect with every single student in the welding program in one way or another. He continuously thrives to get to know the students to their core. He wants to know how to support their goals after they graduate, and he has been a tremendous addition to the PTC family. Thank you, Mr. Petrie, and all of our employees for the work they do each and every day. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hendrick. Items introduced by the school board attorney.
I have no report today. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Items introduced by the board. Board members. Mrs. Blacksburg.
I had the opportunity to attend last week with you, Ms. Hine, the State of the City address with Mayor Welch in St. Petersburg. And I just wanted to give some recognition to one of our own, Deneen Wyman, with the Office of Strategic Partnership. She performed a beautiful solo. And so we know how talented our students are. It's always a nice surprise to see how talented our staff is. So thank you so much for that.
Mrs. Edmond.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to go to the Pinellas County Art Region of the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards exhibition, reception, and awards, where they recognized 369 middle and high school students with 625 awards in 3 categories: honorable mention, silver key, and gold key. And the art displayed includes public, private, and charter school students. So it was great to see the talent of our students, but as well as see our strong community partnerships. Several students receive additional scholarships, and I just want to recognize Mr. Ogle and his team, as well as the staff who support those wonderful, talented artists. Thank you. And I do have a request. I would like to request that policy 2140 is written with the recommendations stated and provided to all board members for the next workshop. Based on the discussion that we heard today, Mrs. Peters, Mrs. Blacksburg, and Mrs. Long expressed support of my recommendation and or wanting to see it in writing. So that would make the majority of the board members. So again, my request is to see policy 2140 written with the recommendations so that the board could see it and have discussions. As previously mentioned, it would not delay the time frame of the current policy. So, thank you.
We have held discussion on this, and if we need to open it again, I suppose we can, but there were only 3 board members that indicated interest in seeing it at the workshop when that was asked.
Would you please state those 3?
Yes, Mrs. Blacksburg, Mrs. Long, and Mrs. Edmond.
Did you hear, with the light
Yes.
signal?
So
Okay.
we all had discussion, we discussed it, and then I cleared the queue, and I asked who would like to see this at the workshop. If there was a majority, we would then do that. There was not a majority.
Thank you for stating the names, because that just means, based on our discussion, someone changed their mind about their conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other board member discussion? I have a few things. Mrs. Blacksburg, thank you for bringing up the state of the city and St. Pete and Deanne Weinman. That was unbelievable. She's saying rise up, and I'm telling you, we've got to get that video and share it with the whole school district. I mean, it was unreal. I've never seen somebody sing that song in such a beautiful way. And then Shore Acres Elementary at the end did Fight Song. And there was, Shore Acres Elementary, so this young woman is there singing, totally a cappella, singing that song. And then they had buckets with sticks, this whole row of buckets, and they were up on bleachers, and it was just unbelievable. So that one too, Katie and I were both very proud of our school district. We were very well represented in that audience. So thank you to Shore Acres Elementary and to Deanne Wyman. It was really remarkable. I attended the Regional Engineering and Science Awards last week. My son and I both did, and we're both the smarter for it. And I'm glad that you mentioned the name of Madeline's project because, wow. I do want to thank Pam Himmel from Carwise Middle School, Jerry Cantrell from Seminole High School, and Stephanie Hornick, our middle school science lead. And I'm sure many, many others were involved, but the award ceremony was very well done. And so Madeline is also the selection to go to the International Science and Engineering Fair. It's called ISEF. There's a great documentary that I watched with my kids a couple years ago. If you want to learn a little more about ISEF, I recommend it. It's called Science Fair. It's from 2018, and it'll just show you how competitive and how serious these students, as they should, take these projects. So I'm very excited for Madeline to experience ISEF. Also, I just wanted to mention San Jose Elementary I went to for literacy last week. Perhaps some of you also read at different schools. I was in a 4th grade class with Miss Laughlin, and I read with them, yes, but whenever I have the opportunity to visit a classroom, I also ask the students what we can do better for school. And you won't be surprised. They, of course, talk about lunch and recess is always top, for sure. And then, but this class also advocated for more teacher pay. And then they also wanted to ensure that if there is some of a series of books available, the whole series is available so that they could make sure to read to the end. So I found out what the name of that series was and make sure we get that there. So I just wanted to share that with you. And they sent these beautiful notes, which are really amazing. And one of them from Hayden, he actually put a math problem at the bottom, which I really appreciate. He's probably just wanted to keep my skills sharp. But anyway, one of the things they really appreciated, yes, the books, but also being asked their thoughts on things. And I just wanted to recommend to the public, if you have time, volunteer in our schools. Our kids are amazing. Our teachers are amazing. Every day, there's amazing people doing things in beautiful places. So I just highly recommend you go volunteer in our schools. I wanted to mention also, I've had a number of residents ask me, and I bet some of you have too, they've asked me about what's going on with the Federal Department of Education and what do you think about that, And so instead of kind of reacting to, was it going to close or not? And the thing I thought about was the way that we as board members always look at what is the impact on our students. When we're looking at decisions that we have control over locally, we think, what is the impact to our students? So I decided to pull some information together just so I could better understand. And this is what I would like to offer. So the primary lead of K-12 education is our state government. The state sets the academic standards. They set accreditation, accountability, testing, many other tangible requirements that we feel day in and day out for things such as school safety and transportation, as well as allocating the budget and the resources. So the state provides just over 20% of our current year funding. The federal Department of Education does three primary things: funding, legal compliance, and academic monitoring and research. So when it comes to funding here in Pinellas County, our federal sources represent 10% of our budget. So that's roughly $150 million. The three highest areas that are funded in order are food for students. So school lunch and breakfast and other food programs, so that comes to about $53 million a year in federal funding. The second area is learning in our schools that serve a significant portion of economically disadvantaged students. So what that means is that more than 70% of students in a particular school qualify for free or reduced lunch, which means that they are close to or in the federal poverty level in their families, more than 70% of students. And that's called Title I. And that's part of a federal act of Congress in 1965. That's about $38.3 million in our current year budget. And then the third largest funding area from the Federal Department of Education is learning for students with disabilities of all sorts. So this would be meeting the IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act of 1975. And so this is students who have a range of disabilities, from multiple sclerosis to traumatic brain injury, severe learning or behavioral difficulties. If you've visited Nina Harris, you've seen this funding in action. But we have IDA students in every single one of our schools. That funding on this current year is $29.4 million. So I'll share the spreadsheet that I made with board members. It was just really informative to say, what is this? What's the volume? What does this mean to our students? And thank you, Mr. Jepperson, for reviewing it for accuracy. When it comes to funding, legal compliance, and academic monitoring and research. So legal compliance, I mentioned IDEA earlier, the Every Student Succeeds Act, the Office of Civil Rights, a number of Supreme Court decisions, whether it's Brown versus Board of Education and racial segregation, or Tinker versus Des Moines on the students' rights to free speech. So all compliance with federal law that impacts K-12 education. And then the last piece around monitoring for academic performance is, you likely know, there are not federal standards. They're not federal academic standards themselves, but the Every Student Succeeds Act in 1965 required assessment and reporting of results for every student in grades 3 through 10 in math, science, and reading. And our state submits to the U.S. Department of Education their plan, and then the state has to submit annual reports that shows this data. The Department of Education amalgamates and analyzes that input from states and districts. They conduct research on trends, and then they provide that information to the profession for use and improvement. So that's my summary of the U.S. Department of Education and how it touches Pinellas County, if you will. So funding, legal compliance, and academic performance and research. But what I do think is important for the public to know, and why I am raising it today, is that Pinellas County Schools is monitoring the movement in the federal level, just as we do at the state level when it comes to the annual legislative session. We are watching it, we are having conversations, we are considering impact and making sure we're able and ready to mitigate any impacts, and we just want you to know that we will continue to monitor it and any impact on our students. Mrs. Kane?
Sorry, can you just clarify the final roughly $30 million that you...
It was for IDEA.
For IDEA, okay.
$29.4 million for IDEA.
You clarified the rest. I just wanted that. Thank you very much. I know you're going to send it, but
yeah, it's interesting. Any other board comments for today? Okay. Mrs. Woodruff, were there any board requests?
Madam Chair, I noted the request by Vice Chair Edmond and the subsequent discussion about referendum policy 2140, but based on the board's discussion, I have no follow-up.
Thank you. With that, I'll adjourn this meeting and move to public participation. Mrs. Howe, do we have any public speakers today?
Yes, Madam Chair, there are 2 speakers today.
Thank you. We are moving into receiving public comment on the general business of the district. Please note that any views or comments shared are of the public speakers and not endorsed or sponsored by the school board or the district. We cannot ensure accuracy of statements made, but will review the concerns that are raised and take appropriate action. The board is committed to a standard of civility and decorum in conducting our meetings, and we appreciate your assisting us in maintaining that civil and constructive environment. Please note that although board members or Superintendent Hendrick may briefly leave the dais, there are speakers in the back room and we'll continue to be able to hear your comments. Thank you so much. Please go ahead and call the speakers.
Our speakers this morning are David Childress and Linda Lerner.
Good morning.
Madam Chair, Superintendent, board members, and staff, thank you for hearing me out. My name is David Childress. I spoke twice over the summer and then got real lazy afterwards. But anyway, I'm currently a substitute teacher in Pinellas County and retired Army. And the last time I spoke, Madam Chair came to me and reminded me something that I understood, that it was our food service, is what I'm here to speak about, if I didn't mention it, is guided by the USDA guidelines. Now, these are 20 through 25. Obviously, 25 through 30 is out, and my search on the internet found it to be as credible as this document, and I hate to, it's not a credible document. This document, I would argue, that we follow is responsible for the 80% of eating disorders that our general public suffers from. That is, 80% of our population is metabolically unhealthy due to a pattern of eating that is 3 meals a day and snacking in between, all high carbohydrate and sugar. To give you an example, I'm 60 years old. I don't suffer from coronary heart disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, irritable bowel syndrome, eczema, arthritis, dementia. I'm just kidding. But anyway, those are metabolic disorders that are directly related to having a high insulin concentration. Insulin, big word, is a pleiotropic hormone. It does many different things. In addition to bringing sugar, fat, and protein into our cells to help people like me who are over 60, the leading cause of death in my age group is falling down. That is low protein, and bones are 50% protein, muscle tissue 50% protein. There are certain enzymes that if we, all right, that's it. Anyway, my point being is that I'm not here to argue, but I'm hoping to work with like-minded people to figure out a way that we can mitigate some of the recommendations and or observe them without experiencing the inflammation that our children suffer when they're going to have cereal in the morning. That's just straight sugar. Then they're going to have a snack, and then they're going to have lunch, and it's more sugar. And so even though behavior patterns can be greatly mitigated, thank you very much for your time.
It's always great to be here, especially to celebrate Career Ed and to see all the wonderful students and teachers. And the one bit of advice I give you as board members, and I know many of you are doing it, please visit the schools, see the Career Ed, see the arts, see a subject. Math was one of my subjects I didn't particularly like, but go and see how it's being taught. I decided probably I could have even liked it. I want to compliment Mr. Mark Hunt and his department, and the Education Foundation for their partnerships since 2001 to support the career academies. And I have been privileged to serve on the Stavros Career Ed Board all those years and to be able to see all of the great progress. It's really awesome. I also hope you will all go to the Arts for a Complete Education breakfast tomorrow, which is a wonderful celebration of the arts and honoring our principals. So I hope you will have that on your calendar. I believe public education is the biggest protector of our democracy. And at a time of division in our country, I know all of you are dedicated to our mission in Pinellas County Schools, which is success for all students, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, gender identity, nationality, or special needs. I know that you have such an important role in being sure all our students get an excellent education. And I just want to thank you for what you do every day. Thank Mr. Hendrick and all the leadership and all the teachers who are doing so much for our students. I love the videos about the student leadership summits, I guess, that you had, which is a wonderful innovation. It wasn't happening when I was on the board. But I think the first student, the elementary student, had something good to say for all of us. It's about kindness and respect. And I know all of you have it. And maybe we can't take care of all the world and our country's issues, but we all can have kindness and respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lerner. It's good to see you today. Thank you for being here and staying involved in our schools. This concludes today's meeting.